United Nations-sponsored peace accord ended the war in El Salvador. It also represented hope for reconciliation, hope of reconstruction, and freedom from the terror that prevented the poor majorities in El Salvador from developing their communities. To provide material support for this new hope, in March 1993, Pastors for Peace, a grassroots organization based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, coordinated a nationwide caravan of humanitarian aid to El Salvador, the Building the New El Salvador National Caravan. Since its inception in 1988, Pastors for Peace has led 12 caravans to Central America, but this was the largest and broadest in scope.
The largest humanitarian effort to help rebuild war-torn El Salvador assembled in San Antonio today before beginning its 8-day journey to that Central American nation. $2.5 million in humanitarian aid is pouring into San Antonio from 112 cities in 23 states. A national coalition of a dozen charitable organizations work with scores of communities and hundreds of people to gather the aid.
So we've spent about a year out in communities around the United States raising funds to purchase these trucks and collecting supplies that were requested by the Salvadorans themselves to help in reconstruction efforts.
School supplies, medical supplies, computers, and a tractor are among the items being donated. 34 vehicles will deliver the aid to the non-governmental agencies. 10 years of civil war in El Salvador has produced 75,000 deaths. A peace accord was signed just last year. These groups say they support the emerging democracy there and will continue to aid the rebuilding efforts.
After months of preparation, 76 volunteer drivers began the journey from northern U.S. cities and converged in San Antonio, Texas. There, the vehicles were repaired, supplies loaded, and drivers prepared for the long drive through Mexico, Guatemala, and into El Salvador. The drivers came from 4 countries, 23 states and the District of Columbia, and ranged in age from 20 to 77.
We must have made at least 20 churches where they were waiting for us and had wonderful potluck suppers with lots of rice and beans. And
we bought a truck with a couple other cities and loaded it full of stuff and sent it down. And I kind of saw how it was working, what was happening, and I thought, man, that would be awesome to drive down there.
I wasn't sure whether a 47-year-old woman could drive a 12.5 ton truck up a steep hill with a tractor inside it. But I found I could do it. So I can tell other women my age, they can do it too.
Students, pastors, photographers, mechanics, community organizers, carpenters, electricians, lawyers, nurses, and chiropractors were among the drivers. Included in the crew were 3 Salvadorans who had fled the war and were returning now for the first time. Annually, 1 million refugees from Central America enter the United States at the Mexican border. This number includes approximately 600,000 refugees from Salvador. Leaving the border town of Reynosa, Mexico before dawn, the caravan moved south into the Mexican countryside.
What's the point? Are we not going to need the bus to transport people? Yeah, we are going to need it, but we'll make sure that we're overflowing out here, over. Me to stay here, right? Over. Just me to stay here, he said. No, the bus we're going to be...
After 4 days, the caravan reached Guatemala. Guatemala, like its neighbor El Salvador, is ruled by wealthy landowners with strong ties to the military. The mountains of Guatemala are known for their beauty. Nonetheless, these peaceful mountains harbor Guatemalan guerrillas waging an ongoing struggle against the current repressive regime. The elegant birds hovering overhead are the vultures indigenous to this region. The people of Guatemala and El Salvador face the similar hardships of poverty and repression. Finally, the caravan pulled to within a single day's drive of El Salvador. Crossing the bridge into El Salvador, pleasant border guards met the caravan. A group of Salvadorans had come to greet the North Americans, but the government was dragging its feet. The National Assembly held up a bill that would tax-exempt the aid brought by the caravan. Without the passage of this bill, the poor rural communities receiving the material could not afford to pay the taxes on it.
What we're proposing right now to the Minister of the Hacienda is that he send a custodio with the caravan, that we take the caravan to the UCA as we had planned so that no so-called contraband is removed from it. We think this is a very reasonable compromise, given the fact that we've been here for 2 days already. And if this compromise is not accepted, we'd like to ask for a consensus amongst the group that we're going to block the roadway here with the vehicles until they accept our compromise.
My understanding in coming down here was we're coming people to people to help those who have great need and who have suffered much. And I didn't come in order to create more problems and create more confrontation and more difficulties. See, I came in order to bring people together and not drive them apart. And your point of view may be different, but that's where I'm coming from.
I think that's exactly why we're doing this, because the caravan has come this far and we're stuck at the border, and this isn't going to get through unless we do something about it.
But I agree with you. We cast our lot with a larger group, and we don't have to agree personally with every aspect of its decisions.
Fortunately, the organizers reached an understanding with the government and the trucks were allowed to continue. Nevertheless, this incident impressed upon the North Americans the powerful implications of bringing aid directly to the people and not the government of El Salvador. A mini convoy from many of the recipient groups met the caravan, and they set out on the road to the capital city of San Salvador. The caravan's arrival coincided with a week of celebrations.
Tengan todos y cada uno de los hermanos de la solidaridad muy buenos días. Realizamos una guerra justa. Realizamos una guerra necesaria. Y por eso es que El Salvador está cambiando. Pueda vivir en solidaridad, en justicia social, en hermandad y en dignidad. ¡Viva la solidaridad internacional! ¡Viva el pueblo salvadoreño! ¡Viva el FML! ¡Viva!
2.5 million may seem like a lot of humanitarian aid, which is about the value of this caravan. But in the long run, without real serious political changes in U.S. policy, this country doesn't have a chance. The people of this country don't have a chance.
Just last Friday, President Clinton and the new administration in the United States said that they would cut all U.S. military aid to the government of El Salvador until the accords were complied with and until the Truth Commission report was complied with.
El Salvador is an incredible process that we can learn so much from. They truly are challenging the status quo in terms of progressive political thought, in terms of challenging a status quo repressive government.
The news came that the National Assembly here was debating an amnesty bill to grant amnesty for people who'd been involved in massacres and huge human rights abuse. So we were asked to take part in a march to demonstrate against the passage of the amnesty bill.
As part of the peace accords, it was agreed that a United Nations Truth Commission would investigate all human rights violations during the war. It was also agreed that no amnesty would be granted to anyone for at least 6 months following the publication of the Commission's report on March 15th. The bill in front of the Assembly now, seeking immediate amnesty, and coming less than a week after the report's publication, was in direct violation of the peace accords. Calling for justice, these Salvadorans took this opportunity to voice their anger over long-ignored human rights violations. They went directly to the National Assembly officials. After the officials left the chamber, the lights were turned off on the people. Despite the protest, the National Assembly, led by the right-wing Arena Party, passed the bill granting amnesty to human rights violators. Two of the opposition parties, the FMLN and the Christian Democrats, voiced their opinions to the caravan.
The problem is the timing, because the truth simply hasn't come out and been made known to the general public in El Salvador. That the people all over the country have heard, well, now there's amnesty, but they're asking, well, amnesty for who?
We had this agreement that there will be no amnesty until 6 months after the Truth Commission report was delivered. I have a folder full of documents signed by Calderón Sol, the president of Arena. And here it says Arena doesn't comply.
One of the most well-known atrocities of the war was the assassination of Archbishop Oscar Romero in 1980. Romero was shot to death while saying Mass after speaking out against the terror and repression of the military. The caravan joined in a march on the anniversary of Romero's death.
The main thing here was church persecution, was killing an archbishop, killing priests, killing nuns, killing catechists, people pissed off and take arms and fight back. That was the true and the fact.
After 6 days, the caravan prepared to deliver the aid to various communities throughout the country. The drivers set about the task of organizing and loading the cargo. When Archbishop Romero began criticizing the military's repression in 1980, the army began systematically attacking small villages in the countryside. One of these was Santa Marta, a small farming community in the northern region of El Salvador near the Honduras border. Some of the aid of the caravan was brought to Santa Marta for its reconstruction. The caravan members met with local leaders and heard the story of the attack of the Salvadoran army.
Right now we're working on...
Bartolomé Enriquez was the spokesman.
Digamos, oyendo las humilías de Monseñor Romero.
We started hearing the homilies of Monsignor Oscar Romero.
Teníamos en ese tiempo una gran fe nosotros en el Evangelio de Cristo Jesús.
At that time we had great faith in the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Ya en el año 1980 nosotros empezábamos a sufrir.
Now in 1980 we began to suffer.
Se capturaban a los celebradores de la palabra de Dios y los desaparecían.
They began to capture the lay people, what they call delegates of the word here, who were celebrating the teachings of Jesus Christ. They began to capture them and disappear them.
Finally, when the army attacked with helicopters and heavy artillery, those that could fled the violence. The army massacred everything and everyone which remained, including domestic animals and old people, and leveled the town. The fleeing refugees crossed the Lempa River into Honduras, but 36 of them were killed in the river by the Honduran army. The survivors made it to refugee camps in Honduras. Many learned skills and trades. However, without land to till, many also died from malnutrition, disease, and attacks by the Honduran army. Finally, the townspeople decided to return together, almost 5,000 of them, to reclaim Santa Marta. When they returned, they found everything destroyed. The countryside was decimated, the school was reduced to rubble. But the people began to rebuild with the assistance of several international solidarity groups. A new school was erected. Skills learned in Honduras were now put to use.
Yeah, they are.
The town still has no running water. They are trying to acquire a nearby well, but cannot afford the large down payment for the land the well is on. Most importantly, the farmers have returned to the fields.
Ya ese año hicimos la primera trabajada nosotros de 62 manzanas de milpa.
And that first year we were able to plant 72 manzanas.
La hicimos colectiva.
And we did it all collectively.
Bien contentos porque trabajamos la tierra, porque en ese lugar donde estábamos no trabajábamos.
We were also happy because we were working the land, and all the time we were in Honduras, we had no land to work.
Sí, nosotros nos reconocemos como hermanos, compañeros.
We see you all as brothers, as compañeros, with our own compañeros.
Porque los han acompañado en estos 13 años que hemos pasado de guerra hasta este momento.
Because you've accompanied us through all these 13 years of the war.
Porque nosotros aseguramos que sin el apoyo de la solidaridad internacional, nosotros ya hubiéramos muerto aquí.
Because we're sure that without the support of international solidarity, we would have died here.
The Salvadoran government has done nothing to help Santa Marta recover, and it is here in Reconstruction that the North Americans can now help.
We'll be constructing health clinics, housing. We've been asked to construct a mechanics shop in one of the repatriation communities. So that's basically the kinds of hands-on work we'll be doing down here.
People don't forget. People who have a real sense of history and what they've suffered through. They just want a chance to have a better life, to have education for their kids and decent health care and a decent house. You know, they just want that opportunity, and they're hoping that through the peace accords that opportunity is going to become a reality.
I think real life changes come when people see it for themselves. I mean, I've seen people come down on caravans that really are either resistant or at least just unaware of what's happening, but when they see the reality, they begin to talk to the people firsthand. They become people instead of just a label.
To encounter in the faces of these people such hope, such joy, such power, such strength. And they have shared that with me. They have shown me the real, living, powerful presence of Christ in their lives in a way that I've never been able to encounter Christ in my own home communities.
The peace accords alone do not ensure the success of the peace process. The war destroyed the economy, and many of the causes of the war remain. Unemployment is 70%, and the average worker's income is $3 a day. The vast majority of farmland still belongs to a small number of ruling families and their lucrative coffee enterprises. Most Salvadorans live under crushing poverty. The constant political murders which terrorize the Salvadoran people decreased dramatically after the peace accords were signed in January. Today, individuals in the opposition are again being murdered for their political convictions. The military and powerful right-wing families are again sponsoring death squads to intimidate the population for the national elections scheduled for March 1994. Now, however, through vocal protests to the international community and public demonstrations at home, the people refuse to remain silent.
For us, it's like to renew or to reaffirm the commitment that we have for all those people that give their life, that through their death, they give life for El Salvador. And I think it's a very, very powerful way to reaffirm your commitment to continue rebuilding and continue building something new. That's why these people give their life. The main problem that we are having in El Salvador for a long time ago has been social injustice. And again, you know, it's very hard when few people have so much and everybody else don't have anything. And I think that's a fact that many Latin American countries have been facing for so many years. And a lot of people decide to take arms and fight back against the government. We don't need army in every corner and killing people. We need civilian society. Civilians take over and run all the institutions in El Salvador. But also we believe that we can learn and we would like not only talk about politics and about war, but we can share about culture. We can share about how to bring people together.
What would be really exciting is to see the disenfranchised of our own country talk to the people here in El Salvador, because in seeing the unity that they have, although, as I said, of course there's struggles, there's divisions, but in learning how they work together, because so often people feel isolated, they feel like I can't do anything, but with the example of what the Salvadoran people have done when they got together, they brought peace to this country.